Welcome to Something for the Turbo, the weekly podcast brought to you by Unfound, the global platform for the travel-loving cyclist. We're heading over to Southern California for today's conversation, as I'm very happy to be joined by Ryan Steers. Ryan is a former pro mountain biker and gravel racer, and we talk about his background, some of the races he's done from the Leadville 100 to the Dirty Kanza, some of the experiences he had, the lessons he learned from nutrition to pain, some of the other amazing events you may not have heard in the US that are definitely worth checking out, just the general cycling scene. We also talk about CBD, as Ryan is now working with Floyd Landis on his Floyds of Leadville project. That's a fascinating topic of discussion. We talk about wine, we talk about general travel, and I think it's a conversation that anyone who's interested in cycling and gravel biking, mountain biking, and travel in the US would enjoy immensely. Anyway, without further ado, here's Ryan. Ryan, thanks very much for joining me today. How you doing?
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. Fantastic. I just actually got back from a nice little Tuesday morning gravel ride, so feeling pretty good.
Awesome. And you've got gravel right out the front door where you are? Where exactly are you living?
Right out the front door. I'm north of Los Angeles in this awesome little community called Agora Hills. So we're right against the national park. We've got Chesborough National Park, like a quarter mile away, the Santa Monica Mountains. The trails are all back open now, so it's fantastic.
Wow. Okay, so you're able to get out and get riding again. Was it locked down for a little bit, the national parks, or?
It was, yeah. The trails were closed, at least in Los Angeles County, every day. And then I'm right on the Ventura County border, and Ventura was open during the weekdays, so you could still squeak out for weekday rides. But on the weekends, it was all the trails were shut down for a couple of weeks. So it was some time to reconnect with the road, I suppose.
Yeah, crazy times. Yeah, talking of the road, I mean, it's we were just chatting before we started recording. I think we could probably chat for about 4 or 5 hours, given like your interesting story and some of your interests verging from wine to all kinds of racing, and obviously the work that you're doing now with Floyds of Leadville on the CBD side. But shall we start from the beginning? You started in track and field, if I remember correctly, right?
I did, yeah. So in high school, I did a number of track events: indoor track, outdoor track, cross country. I was like a medium distance runner on the track, 800 meters. Experimented with the hurdles. 400 was kind of my game. So and then moved to high jump in college. Went to USC and high jumped there, and then hit the crew team.
Middle distance to high jump. That's a bit of a random.
Yeah, I'm freakishly tall, so I could just kind of fall over backwards over the bar and do okay.
Okay, and what sort of times are you coming in on the 400?
Oh man, I don't even remember. It was low 50s, somewhere around there, I think.
Quick. And did you feel it's quite interesting? I think a lot of runners end up getting into cycling, and once they've sort of got their cycling legs, there's a transition. Did you feel that you were that kind of punchy middle distance kind of engine when you got into the cycling career as well?
Yeah, definitely more. I'm not a sprinter, and I am all slow twitch, so cannot sprint, but can go for a while at a medium speed.
Okay, I thought maybe with a 400 you might have had a bit of a kick on you there, given the 400 background, but
a little bit of a kick, but yeah, nothing shorter than that.
I think you're being modest. So, so you track and field, and then you sort of transitioned on into the bike, right? It started off on the roadside.
Yeah, it did. I was okay at running and did pretty well at it, and had the fitness to realize I was okay at it, but I did not like it. I got bored easily and got into biking, just wanting to see places. You can cover a whole lot of ground on a bike that you can't on a run. So that's what drew me in initially, and got hooked on some road racing out here in LA. And
yeah, I can agree more. I think there's no better way to see the world than on a bike, but I've often said that. But talk us through the LA scene. It's getting bigger and bigger, right? The crit scene in LA. Is that where you're riding?
It is. I loved the road races again for the scenery, but I came to quickly realize there aren't many road races in LA, and the ones that are in the middle of nowhere. But I grew up in Virginia, so did some road racing back there in the summer, and it's, you're in the hills of West Virginia. It's beautiful, these great long road races, and then you do road races in LA, and they're all circuit races and crit races, and I just didn't enjoy it. So
I love that, but
moved away from the road.
I hate it, right?
Oh yeah, I'm not aerodynamic at all. So I was the guy, the doofus in the front that everyone was sitting behind, not realizing why I was why I was alone in the front.
So then you ended up, because it's quite an unusual transition. You normally see mountain bikers going to road, but you went the other way.
I did. Yeah, I grew
Yeah.
up on the East Coast doing a lot of mountain biking. I had trails next to me. So just as a kid, I really enjoyed being out in nature and in the woods. And we had some great single track out there. So, and then when I moved to LA, it's all fire road. So I took the mountain bike out a couple times and just gave up on it because it was long fire road climbs. It was hot. It wasn't what I used to. So it took a bit of adjusting.
And you turned pro. When did you turn pro, and how did all that come about? Just
Uh,
from starting.
2014, yeah, I started transitioned from the road and then got really into single speed racing. I was working at this awesome bike shop up in Topanga Creek Outpost, and they introduced me to mountain bike racing, did a 24-hour race on a team, and I loved it.
Amazing.
Loved
Which
it.
race was that?
It was 24 hours at Herky Creek. It doesn't exist anymore. It was part of the 24 Hours of Adrenaline series.
You're going to have to educate certainly me, but probably some of our listeners as well. Like there's this whole world of like races, both gravel. Well, obviously we know Dirty Kanza and Leadville and various others, but the scene in the US is massive. Tell us a little bit more about the sort of cycling scene from the road, the gravel, the mountain bike. What are the big races? Is it flourishing? I spoke to someone last week, and certainly at the top end on the road scene here in the UK, we're actually losing races. But what's going on in the US at the moment?
Yeah, it seems like it's definitely the road scene has slowed down. I know there's a bunch of local, like they were staple races out here, Redlands and those kind of things, that the turnout has dropped way off, and everyone seems to be putting on fun gravel events, and that's where it's gravitating toward these.
So that's it. Gravel's the new. We'll come on to
Gravel,
gravel in more depth in a bit. But what
yeah.
about the big famous mountain bike races? What are the sort of the key big sort of long mountain bike races? Are they still thriving and going well?
They are, yeah. The biggest, at least endurance mountain bike race is the Leadville 100. That's the one
Yeah,
most people talk about and know up in Leadville there. And there's the
done that
NUE
a bunch of
series.
times, right?
Yeah, yeah. The NUE series for endurance, National Ultra Endurance Series is big, and then there's the US Cup series. That's all the cross country ones that draws in the UCI pros. There's a couple UCI HC events, and then they've got all the other categories as well. So those are the bigger ones, like cross country wise. It's Benelli Park and Fontana and Vail Lake, at least out here. Those were all the cross country races.
And you were doing those racing for a team as a professional before you moving to gravel?
Yeah, I raced for a shop, Peddler's Fork. That's when I turned pro. I was with them, and then transitioned to Giant back in, is that about 2017? Was on the co-factory team on Giant, and then the factory team last year.
Cool. And that's I think I saw a YouTube clip of you. That's when Dirty Kanza was 2018 and 2019. You did that, right?
Yes, yes. I remember somewhat being filmed for that. It was a very delirious time.
What's it like? I mean, I know I've got a couple of friends who've gone over and done it, but I'm sure there's many people listening that would, it's on the bucket list. It's probably become the premier or the most renowned gravel race anywhere in the world at the moment. Tell us a little bit about it, the organization, the experiences as a whole, as well as the sort of pain and delirium you mentioned as well.
Oh boy. Yeah, it seems like along with a lot of these big events now, getting in is one of the harder parts, getting a spot. Leadville and Kanza, a lot of them it's lottery system. So fortunately, there's if you're with a team or a sponsor, you can get a spot. But a lot of times it's lottery, so it's luck of the draw. But getting in, I'd done Leadville a bunch of times. I've done it 5 times now, and just figured, Kanza, it's, you hear about it being kind of rolling and flat, and it is no joke. It went out there, just completely underestimated the race and the amount of fitness that it takes. It is a brutal, brutal day. Hardest day I've had on the bike for sure. At least the first year I was underprepared for what I was getting into.
But I think you're obviously understating yourself a little bit. I mean, you've been relatively successful. I had some good results at Leadville, but Kanza was kind of next level, is what you're saying, right?
It was next level. Yeah, there's a big difference between 100 and 200 miles.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah,
obviously half the distance, but mentally, like, I've done 100, I can do 200, and realize out there at the 100-mile point, it was like mile 105 the first year. It's completely fell apart, like Charlie horsing cramps, and then you realize you have I had 100 miles left and I could barely turn the pedals. And I knew I was in huge trouble at that point.
Yeah, it's funny. I have to confess, I don't think I've ever mentioned this to you, but I was actually following you during the race, and by 100 miles, you're kind of right up in the mix, right?
I was doing okay. I was feeling
Yeah.
pretty good. And yeah, I think I chatted with you. It was did a little blog or something the day
Before, I think.
before the race. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
sitting in the
exactly.
rental
Yeah.
house chatting with you.
And so I was watching it. I was like, "Shit, man, he's right in the mix. This is serious." And I was in Hong Kong at the time, so it was like a massive time difference, the other side of the world. And then, yeah, second half, I was like, "Shit, is he okay? What's is?"
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't. I was not okay. I think it was like top 10 or 20 at the 100-mile mark. I wasn't, it wasn't that far behind. And yeah, I was chatting with Jens, and then it completely went sideways.
It's still awesome. And now, you mentioned before you've metaphorically hung the pro wheels up. Now is that right?
I
Just for
have,
fun?
yeah. Yeah, just for fun. I'm starting to find some enjoyment in just riding again. I'm riding a lot with my kids, which has been great. My 6-year-old Rex is really, really into it now. Being out of school and living so close to the trails, he just wants to go ride his mountain bike. So we've had some great fun together.
Super cool. And that's kind of an interesting question from a parenting perspective. I mean, given that you've lived that pro life, which is not a glamorous life, it's a hard life, right, at times. I mean, would you encourage him to pursue the cycling as much as he can, or just ride for fun?
I think just ride for fun. I would let him make his own decisions and do what he enjoys. And at least through college, the colleges out here have amazing mountain bike programs. Some of them, especially in Colorado. So if that's a sport he wanted to pursue, I would say, yeah, pursue it like any other sport out there. But yeah, always have a
Nice.
backup
So you
plan.
can go and do college mountain biking, right?
There's I know like Fort Lewis in Colorado, some of the giant guys were there. I have a friend that's going there, and yeah, they've got some great programs now that didn't exist when I was growing up.
Oh man, yeah, I wish I had. Yeah, it would have stopped me getting so fat at university. But that's another story. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think gravel's kind of new and certainly seems to bridge the divide between mountain biking and road. Do you see the shift from road to gravel? Do you think it's a little less stuffy? Is a different vibe? Would you say, or what's the general perception? And how are the gravel riders feeling about more of the roadies coming over, like EF Education, and giving the gravel races a bit of a go?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was that way a couple years ago, 3, 4 years ago. It was, it was a little more casual. It was a lot of them were unsanctioned. There's lots of beards and lots of beers and it was just a really fun vibe. And then it started to get more serious, as bigger sponsors got on and the rides got faster. And suddenly times that used to be top 5, top 10, you find yourself cracking the top 20 or 30, and the competition just goes up and up. And yeah, a lot of the road engines coming over with Grand Tour training. It's really hard to hang with guys on that level, but it still has the fun vibe. At least on the front row, it's everyone at that level is really chill and really fun, and there's a lot of high fives. And a little farther you get back, the people that are coming from the road for the first time, I know there's a little more nerves or anxiety about it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what it's managed to retain its soul, has it? Because it's kind of seems from the outside to have that vibe, and you hope that roadies aren't sort of turning up and wrecking it.
Yeah, it's been a different feel, a lot of swapping poles to, kind of, and every person for their self aspect that's kind of started to infiltrate in the last year or two. So it's changing for sure. Yeah, there's,
I think if we can knock the edge off the stigma around some of the cycling disciplines, and we might see that off the back of this pandemic as well. I was chatting to Chris McNamara last week. I think given certainly in a lot of the Northern Hemisphere, most of the road season's probably gone. So we're probably going to see a lot of roadies transitioning into like maybe cyclocross or mixing things up. So I think it'd be kind of cool if we try and mix all the disciplines up a little bit more.
Yeah, and it's such a democratic genre. I mean, if you're Cat 4, Cat 3 road racer, you're never going to line up against the EFS guys or, be able to hold on to Lachlan's wheel for a while. And now, you go out to Dirty Kanza and suddenly you can, and you're riding with these guys, and you used to watch
Hang
on
on,
TV.
hang on. You can. I most of us probably.
Well,
Most of us probably couldn't.
it's called a neutral rollout. So hey, that's
Okay, fair enough.
I that's about what I try to hang on for as well.
Fair play. And with, obviously it's still a relatively new discipline, and we're seeing more and more sort of tech around gravel bikes coming out and stuff, and some lovely, lovely machines. But obviously the mountain bike scene started with sort of rigid bright bikes and then introduced front suspension, then rear suspension. Where do you see gravel bikes potentially going? Do you see some more suspension or some more tech coming into the gravel bike arena
Yeah,
as well?
potentially. I mean, there's that balance between efficiency and weight and technology. I think frame flex has played an important role lately, and the geometry's gotten a little slacker. I used to race the TCX cyclocross bike, and then got to test out the Revolt when it was a prototype, and just fell in love with it from a geometry standpoint. It's more like a mountain bike. It's slacker, handles better. It's got a little more frame flex, so it's comfier. But as far as suspension, it'll be interesting to see. I know there's some shorter travel options coming out. Niner's got the full suspension gravel bike, but as far as comfort, yes, I don't know about raceability yet until the weight and lockouts get situated better.
And how did it work when you were riding for obviously for a trade team? Did you were Giant asking for your feedback at all? Or was that like a two-way thing that you could provide them?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was very cool to be able to test out and give feedback. And being a taller rider, it was cool to give feedback on frames. Maybe add a little more here, a little more there, and actually get your voice heard. It's cool to be a rider and be able to give feedback on products about what you like and how you want it to ride, and then see that kind of hit the marketplace. It was really neat.
Yeah, we've actually had a good friend of mine, an engineer, on here, and he's a taller rider as well as Dougie from Edinburgh Bike Fitting, and it is an issue once you get to sort of 6'4", isn't it? The geometry and making that work, particularly on road bikes, it's very difficult for a taller rider.
Oh, it's incredibly difficult, and I'm such a bizarre size that no one will ever make a commercial bike that fits me exactly right. So there's a lot of seat post, which gives some nice flex. And I'm also I'm not light and I'm hard on bikes. So I guess from a testing standpoint, if I can't break it, very good chance nobody can.
And did you, I suppose I don't know, who knows when we'll ever be able to travel again, but did you ever get out to Taiwan riding for Giant?
I didn't. No, they're the global headquarters. It's awesome. Or the U.S. headquarters is right up the street in Newbury Park. So got to hang out there quite a bit. They have an awesome showroom, and you get to see all the cool, fancy, shiny bikes on the wall. And yeah, they're local here.
If you get a chance, honestly, Taiwan is one of the most amazing places I've ever been to ride a bike. It's just it's absolutely spectacular. It's incredibly bike friendly, and it's well worth putting that on the to-do list.
Yeah, that's what I hear. It sounds amazing.
Now tell me, have you ever done an Everesting?
Accidentally.
Have you?
Yeah, no, it wasn't on purpose. So I guess back the balance between
Who accidentally does an Everesting.
The balance when you've got small kids and a wife who is extremely patient with your training. When we go on weekend trips, I would compromise what I would ride my bike and meet them there. And we went up to Big Bear for a weekend, and it's about a little over 200. It's about 200 miles maybe. And Angeles Crest and some incredibly hilly roads. So it turned out to ride there was about 14 miles and 29,500 feet. And I, hadn't really done my research before. And turned out it was a very, very long day, and I had underprepared, but had a blast doing it.
I bet you did. Yeah, I bet you were late home as well.
I got there. I just beat the sunset when we got up there, which was good because I didn't have lights.
Cool. And what do you think of all it's kind of fun seeing during lockdown, the Everest craze has really exploded. What did you think of Keegan taking Phil Goman's record?
Yeah, good for him. That was awesome to see it go back and forth so fast. Something that was shattered and then just handed off so quickly. It's cool to see where the sport's going with that, and people keeping it interesting and fun. And it's like the whole trend of digitalization of everything. It's riding virtually has become it's like real life and virtual at the same time. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, but he's it was one for the mountain bikers, right? For him to get that record.
He is so fast. I know I've raced with him at Crusher.
Have you?
Tushers. He's incredibly fast. That guy's amazing. Yeah.
Is he? Just a supreme athlete.
Oh yeah, amazingly fast. It's one of those. Just a lot of talent.
And you mentioned the digitalization there. I mean, this is a huge assumption because we've never met, but I couldn't imagine you sort of jumping on a turbo and doing Zwift racing. That doesn't when you've got trails outside your back door. I can't see that being a thing. Have you given it a go?
Yeah, I enjoy Zwift a lot. I'm friends with some
Do
other
you?
people there. Well, yeah, from a standpoint of when I can't get outside and train, we're fortunate to have amazing weather and trails here. And I was on it. I broke my collarbone a couple years ago, and that's when I immediately got the appeal when I couldn't ride outside, and I suddenly understood what everyone in Michigan and Wisconsin goes through, like 4 or 5 months of the year, and got the appeal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Once I tried it, and then for Floyd's of Leadville, we've started to do some Zwift events as well during the lockdown when people can't ride together. It's like, how can you get a bunch of people together for a group ride? Well, you do it on Zwift. So I think there's definitely a place for it.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of it, but just having seen some of your photos of where you live, I just couldn't imagine you doing it. But yeah, fair enough. It's just obviously great.
Yeah, I don't know about
well.
I see people post the screenshots of their Zwift ride, and it's hard to get excited about.
Exactly.
About
No,
that.
don't get me wrong. I love the platform. I use it a lot. But
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
And given that you've ridden, obviously you've raced competitively on the road and mountain bike and gravel as well. I wanted to ask you about Mathieu van der Poel. I mean, like it's a different engine. Mountain biking, road biking, and gravel biking. I suppose the perfect gravel rider has the endurance of a road racer and the sort of explosive power of a mountain biker. Would you say that's right? Have I got that right? Would you say, or?
Yeah, it's in the combination of all three of the. I mean, it's like a different species. Like usually it's one or the other, and the fact that somebody can possess all of those qualities, it's amazing. Like if I'm a crow, he's like a peregrine falcon, and I don't even know how it translates.
If you're a crow and he's a peregrine falcon, God knows what I am. But it's another story.
It's nuts, and I mean, when I first started gravel racing, I said I loved it because you didn't have to do anything very well. I was like pretty decent road rider. I was a decent mountain biker, and then gravel. It's like if you can handle a bike well and you can ride long distances, then you can be a pretty good gravel biker. And now that's completely changed. You have to be really, really good at everything to be able to do it too.
Hey, Ryan.
Yep. Are you there? Sorry.
Oh, shit the bed. I thought I'd lost you there. Hopefully we haven't lost the recording. I think we're still. I think my internet dropped out. Sorry. Where were we?
Oh, no problem. Just the gravel racing. I was saying that. Yeah, when I initially got into it, I thought that gravel racing was one of those things you didn't have to be super great at anything, and that's why I enjoyed it and could do okay at it because I wasn't a sprinter. I wasn't the fastest on the road. I wasn't the fastest on a mountain bike, but if you combine all of the mediocre elements, you could do pretty well at a gravel race. And now it's completely changed. You have to be really good at all three of those things to be able to podium now. It's the talent level is incredible. And people that can do all three, I have the utmost respect for them, that you could train endurance and speed and somehow nail them both.
Yeah. Did you think he's kind of an exception to the rule, or do you think we're going to see more people excelling cross-discipline?
I think we'll find more people doing it as people realize that they can. It's one of those things that is relatively new, and as more people try it and have exposure to it, suddenly I think there'll be a new wave of athletes that are to figure out that they can do it all.
And tell me, so obviously you hung the wheels up. What's keeping you out of trouble? What are you doing at the moment?
Oh, at the moment, riding with my kids, working from home, which is nice. Have a flexible schedule and live in a great area where I can get outside a lot, doing yard work, cooking. Actually, most weekends have been filled with cooking, which I really enjoy. So.
And wine. You
wine.
Know your wine as well, I understand.
I'm a huge wine nerd and very fortunate to live next to some incredible wine country in Santa Barbara as well. So before all this, it was, a regular, at least monthly trip to go up and hit the tasting rooms and shop and do all that. So now just doing it from home.
Excellent. And for us over here in Europe, what are you loving at the moment? What should we be keeping our eyes peeled for that's coming out of the West Coast?
I mean, the natural wine movement's taken off a lot here. So the more European style. So we're finally getting on board with you guys. Lower alcohol, less ripe, more food friendly, higher acidity wines are definitely something that we're doing here that you guys in Europe have been doing for hundreds of years. So I think we're about on your page now.
And you've been working with Floyd Landis more recently as well, haven't you? Is that correct? Tell me a little bit more about Floyd's of Leadville.
Yeah, I've been working with Floyd's of Leadville for a while now, doing their social media and on the marketing team there. Got involved through Dave Zabriskie, who I did the gravel camps with, and who's a really good friend, and had the opportunity to take on social media there and take on a larger role in the marketing and content team, which has been great. And as CBD's grown, and make the yearly trip to Leadville, so get to hang out there and got involved with them.
That's cool. So before we come on to the CBD, because I've got some questions, I think obviously it's a far more mature market in the US and it's just sort of creeping into the UK here. But I'm right in saying that there was a Floyd's of Leadville team as well. Were you involved in the marketing for that, or what happened there?
No, that was a separate entity. That was the money from the lawsuit that Floyd got, the
Oh, the
whistleblower
whistleblowing.
lawsuit. Yeah, so
Whistleblower, yeah.
basically, all the proceeds from that. He said I want to fund a cycling team and make that happen for a year, and he did. So that was a separate entity, but it was
More like
Floyd.
he sponsored it rather than you guys were all involved in it kind of thing.
Exactly. Yep, he was the title sponsor of that and made that happen for the year, which was pretty cool to see how well they did. It was amazing, and they did the mixed terrain racing, and it was fun to see them do really well. Travis McCabe had an incredible year.
Yeah, it's very cool indeed. And obviously, I'm sure you've watched The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan. Have you seen that yet?
No, actually, I have not. I'm probably one of the only people that hasn't. I've been following it closely in the LA Times, but
It's pretty cool, man. It's worth watching. But I think ESPN have just released this Lance thing as well. I haven't seen it yet, but Dave and Floyd, what are they like? How long you known them? What are they up to now? Good guys?
yeah,
Do they
great
still
guys.
talk about their racing days, or can they still do it? Have they still got it?
They'll talk about it if you ask. I know I've known Floyd for a couple of years, but I've known Dave, been really good friends with Dave for the last about 6 years. Met in 2014 and did Leadville together, and he lives right down the street, pretty close to me. So we hang out a lot and have done a bunch of rides, and he's still riding the bike, still enjoying it. He was one of the original gravel people years ago. He used to take his drop bar Air 9 out on the trails. People are like, what is that? His Franken bike. And, it was one of the first gravel bikes, and he's been pushing that kind of just fun gravel riding for years. Yeah.
Yeah, wicked. Because actually, he didn't I might be completely wrong, but he didn't retire that long ago, did he?
I think when did he retire? It might have been 13, I think. 14, right around 13, I
Yeah,
think. So right before
because
it
he
was
was a
end of
Garmin,
13.
right?
And then, and then met him in 14
Yeah,
right
that was.
after he had retired and was, just looking to ride for fun and
So he
hang
still
out
had
with
some
his
good legs on him
family.
in those days.
Oh yeah, he's still fast, and he'll if he's not fast at the moment, if just give him 2 weeks and he'll get right back up there. It's pretty funny how it can just happen so quickly
Yeah,
again.
yeah, it's pretty annoying if you ask me. But yeah,
Yes, a couple serious days of training, and he's right back there. And so
here we
they're
go.
both
Yeah.
great guys, and it's fun to be able to hang out with them.
So talk me a little bit through, obviously, as I mentioned, CBD sort of creeping into the market here. It's pretty well established in the US, but we have got people listening from all over. I don't know if what you can tell us about it and who benefits from it. I've used it. I can talk you through my experience with it, but just for someone that's never really come across it, how should someone decide whether it's worth giving it a go and what's it used for?
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear your experience as well. But I mean, Floyd's of Leadville started in 2016. Floyd started it. He had used it to help in his recovery and pain management and discover the benefits. And back then it was relatively unheard of here as well. And if you could find it, it was, at a natural health food shop and incredibly expensive and difficult to come by. And we passed the Farm Bill back at the end of 2018. I think it was December of 18, the Farm Bill passed in the US, and that suddenly opened up the legalization for hemp growing, in all 50 states, and made interstate commerce legal. So that's when it really started to boom here, and people started to try it, and people have enjoyed it. So it's been taken off a lot as people become more familiar and start incorporating it in their daily routines. And now athletes have discovered it as well for relaxing and recovering, post-race, post-training, sleep. A lot of people use it to help them if they are having sleep issues or need a better rest. So people use it for that.
Yeah, so because I think that there still is a stigma around HTC and CBD. So just to sort of clarify that there's there's no THC involved in the products, is there? It's non-psychoactive. It's a derivative from the hemp plant. Help me out here. Am I right? Am I
Yeah,
wrong?
so it is non-psych. Yeah, CBD itself is non-psychoactive, and so we offer Floyd's of Leadville has two lines. There's our isolate products, which have no THC, and that's just CBD isolate from hemp plants. And then our full spectrum products contain less than 0.3% THC, which is an incredibly low amount, and it's non-psychoactive. So that's like the whole plant extract. It's got all the more cannabinoids in there, and some research has indicated the entourage effect. So when it comes from the plant as a whole compound, it interacts with all the other compounds. So as an athlete, you can use if you get tested, and if you're worried about testing or THC levels, the isolate products we always recommend because they have no THC, so you never have to worry about testing positive for THC in your system if you're using those. And granted,
Cool.
yeah.
And it's legal all over the US now and all states.
Yeah, we can ship to all 50 states now. So yeah, legal everywhere.
And what about abroad? Are you allowed to ship abroad? And do you ship abroad?
No, abroad has different rules. We do not ship abroad. So we're just in the US at the moment. I know there's talk of European markets, and it's very complicated with international commerce of it. Yeah.
And I've heard that, and that's quite interesting. As I said, I'll come on to my story in a little bit, but I mean, it'd be good to get your thoughts. Obviously, do you own the full life cycle? So do you own from farm to product?
Now that's been the work of the last year, is integrating. Floyd had the foresight to start last year working with Amish farmers in Pennsylvania. So he grew up in Lancaster in Amish country, and a lot of these farmers had they had grown tobacco, and it was kind of a depressed agricultural area from that, and helped them convert to hemp. So there's a full growing operation out there now, which is really cool. Then processing facility. We have this really cool ultrasonic machine from Germany to process hemp. Yeah. So technology full seed to shelf, which has been awesome to see because you can control all the aspects of it as well. And it helps keep the prices low too when you're manufacturing it, growing and processing it yourself.
Yeah, and also the quality assurance, and I think that's probably from a consumer perspective the biggest concern. I think you've obviously seen this explosion in CBD products, from drinks to foods to oils to patches to absolutely everything, right? So, and from the research I've done, it's kind of critical, how it's extracted, but more importantly, where it's grown, what pesticides are used, or hopefully no pesticides are used and stuff like that. So, is that the kind of niche that you're trying to build, the whole from farm to product, owning the whole life cycle?
Exactly. Yeah. And all of our hemp has been grown using organic methods, and it's all third-party laboratory tested and verified, which a lot of CBD on the market, if you get it, and you can Google blogs that talk about it, they test, and some of these products contain little to no actual CBD, which is pretty wild because it's, an industry that's still new. Yeah. So you don't know what you're buying. So that's one of the reasons that I enjoy working with Floyd's, is we do a large educational push and aspect with that to help educate consumers and be transparent with all our results so people know exactly what they're getting.
Yeah, I'd love to get some links off you if possible from that we can put in the show notes so people read up about it, because I do think it is really interesting. I think that the tide of opinion towards it globally is changing. I'd love to get your views on, for people that might be considering buying it. They're not in the US, so they obviously can't buy Floyd's of Leadville, which naturally they would if they were, of course. But what should they be looking out for in terms of what brand and what strength, and what questions should they be asking in terms of trying to figure out where it's sourced, etc.?
Yeah, I think transparency is key. Any of the higher quality CBD products are going to tell you where they're coming from, and they're going to have published results. Like we have QR codes on all our products, so you can scan it, see the batch code, the test results, and you know what you're getting, rather than just picking up a cheap brand that has no information on it. So just do your research and know what you're buying, and make sure it's been tested and verified, and the company is transparent with what they're selling you. Make sure you're getting a higher quality product.
Yeah, it's easier said than done though. If you go on these sites and try and really dig a little bit deeper, I think there's a lot of white labeling going on. So brands are using, white label companies and stuff.
Yeah, there are, and there's reputable white labeling companies as well too. So any decent white label companies will have results as well that you can see if you find out. But talk to people. There's the shops that sell it. People that are in the industry or shops that sell it are more familiar with it as well. So if you're somewhere that you can't have easy access to it, then you can ask somebody that knows about it, that sells it, that they should be able to tell you, and just stay away from the cheapest stuff you can find online. It's generally never a good way to go.
Never good. Yeah, exactly. Don't go cheap with stuff like this, which is very true. And what about the strengths that people should be? Because I've seen now there's some like crazy concentrations. What sort of strengths should people maybe start with, or look? I mean, what do you use CBD? What do you tend to?
I
What's your?
do, yeah. Most people start with about 25 milligrams for their when they're starting out. Once or twice a day is generally how it started. Studies have shown that it's better to space out the dosing throughout the day, so not just taking a big hit all at once, but kind of spacing it out. It seems to be a little more effective. But yeah, generally around 25 milligrams is where people start. So there's soft gels as well as tinctures are the most effective method per se, because they're the higher bioavailability. They go directly in your bloodstream. You're not digesting them. Anytime you digest something, you're losing a large percentage of it.
What are
So yeah,
those? Sorry, I missed that. Tinctures.
tinctures, yeah. So it's like the
Yeah.
oil, the pure oil with like the
Oh, the
eyedropper
little
top.
pipette
Yeah,
things.
the little
Yeah, the
bottle.
little. Yeah, yeah,
And a lot of people are terrified of them. They'll order and be like, "What do I do with this? I don't know what it is." And you just
yeah.
put a couple drops under your tongue. It's pretty easy, but it does, it has like an herbal taste, so that can turn some people off if they're expecting something that's flavored or sweet, or it's a strong herbal taste. But
Cool. And you use it for just general recovery from workouts and
I do, yeah, before bed, usually before bed and first thing in the morning before a ride. It's kind of a way it helps clear the mind a little bit too, I find as well.
yeah.
So I just enjoy that little bit of effect from it.
Yeah, I mean, I moved back to the UK probably about 9 months ago, and I have to say that ended up on Xanax. And when I came back here, I tried CBD, and just from an anxiety perspective, just made a huge difference, just in terms of keeping equilibrium and keeping in a bit of a better place. So I never thought I would try something like that, or it was on my it wasn't on my radar. And again, my assumption with more the sort of THC cannabis side of things, so I wasn't particularly sort of interested in exploring it, but I did try it. I was persuaded by my sister, and found it very, very beneficial actually.
Nice. Yeah, I've got my mom uses it now, which is fun too, and she was totally against all that, and again had some anxiety issues, and is now a huge fan. So it's fun to see as people try it, and kind of word of mouth is a big one. Somebody tries it and recommends it, and it's somebody that you trust, and you give it a try and find out that hey, it doesn't have the stigma now that it once did. It's nice to be able to try something without feeling like there's a stigma attached, and it's more of a widely accepted substance.
And as well as obviously with Floyd, you're doing some other freelancing stuff. I saw that amazing. Will you send us the link that we can put in the show notes of the trip tell us about that trip to Mexico, because it looked incredible.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful place. So I had the chance to go down a couple years ago to Copper Canyon back in the fall of 2017, and was dying to go back. So my friend Al, who has a marketing agency in Michigan, he's a great dude and rides bikes, and his family, he actually spent a lot of summers there. His family restored this really old hacienda down there into this incredible hotel at the bottom of Copper Canyon. So he's been my tour guide down there. So we got to go again, and I wrote a fun little piece for Peloton about how to go down there and how to go about it, because it can be intimidating. The language barrier, it's super remote. It's not the easiest place to get to, but once you do it, you realize it's not that bad. And the bike scene down there's some mountain bike races that have come back, and the riding it's just incredible. The people are friendly, the scenery, the food. It's a really special place that is pretty untouched by the modern world still.
Oh, wicked. And it feels totally safe when you're down there. There's no concerns around safety or anything like that?
It does. Yeah, it's very safe. There was some cartel wars for years that prevented at least Al's family from going back. And then 16, 17, it became safe again. So it's opened back up, and it feels very safe. Yeah, it's one of those, if you just kind of stick to yourself and mind your own business, there's really no reason to feel unsafe.
Wicked. Well, please do share that link with us, and we'll get it out there. If you haven't seen it, it's well worth having a little look in the show notes. It's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
So you're doing some freelance writing, and is it mainly within the cycling world, or?
No, some different products. Doing some social media and freelance writing for another agency, Lyman Agency, which has been fun. Done some stuff for Al at Q&M for some social media. So taking pictures, writing stories, helping give brands a voice. So I'm really passionate about that. So doing some shorter form and longer form riding for different brands at the moment, which has been really good.
And what I mean, obviously, we're not sure when any of the lockdowns gonna end, but I mean, how do you see things developing in the US with regards to getting the racing scene back up and running? Are there any kind of announcements in terms of stuff being put in for September, October, November, December, or is it all next year now?
No, it's so bizarre. It's still a holding pattern. I think everyone's just kind of holding their breath and waiting to see. And one by one, things are just getting canceled later and later in the year. Leadville got canceled recently in August. I think Kanza is supposed to be September. I haven't heard anything to the contrary, but that wouldn't hold my breath on that. But I don't know what the answer is other than the time trial seems the only safe format to race these days, to stagger starts and have it, everyone starting 30 seconds apart and no contact. So I don't know how you're going to put 2,000 people on a starting line together at the moment, at least for the near future.
It's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
Shit, man. And that's the one discipline you haven't done, so you need to get yourself a time trial bike.
Apparently, I know a guy who was pretty good at it, so maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. On that note, let's obviously you know a lot of supremely gifted athletes, but who've you ridden with against that's just blown your mind in terms of pure talent? Who's the most talented rider that you've raced with or against?
Oh man, I guess just it depends seen on the discipline, but riding with Colin at Dirty Kanza, just watching him, Colin Strickland, knowing how hard Dirty Kanza is, having done it, and then knowing how hard it is even in a group of 10, 12, just riding it in a pack, there's headwinds, you're trying to draft, and then just him being able to solo away for the win with, was it 100 miles? I don't know how that can be done. It's a different level of power right there to be able to hang alone for that long and maintain that distance.
Yeah. Well, is that physical or is that mental or a bit of both?
It's got to be a bit of both, but definitely physical. I mean, you've got to, from the form to being, your aerodynamics have to be spot on. Your nutrition has to be spot on. And then you've got to have the strength to be able to hold those watts because you're pushing 20, 30% more power on your own. So you have to have the power to be able to do it.
It's absolutely nuts, isn't it?
It's nuts,
that's a good point. Talk me through, say, Dirty Kanza, 200 miles, the nutrition. On the nutrition side, how do you even start planning? What does it look like?
Oh, I wish I knew. There's no... Yes, I've still experimented with it and found out it's such a hard balance of trying not... A lot of people eat too much. You can only process... with like 200 calories an hour, something close to that. So it's, you either eat too much and get yourself sick, or you try to hold off, and pace it out, and then you end up bonking. And once you do that, it's so hard to recover from. So I'm a big fan of eating real foods. I like figs and baby bananas, stuff that my kids eat from Trader Joe's. I pick up a lot and ride with those, but it's spacing it out and then eating. Just timing your eating is a big one, and staying hydrated. Kansas races like that are hot. You're sweating a lot, and it's self-supported. There's not, people handing bottles every couple miles. So you really have to stay on top of when you're filling and how much you're drinking and eating.
And is that, like, if I was to ask you, like, your favorite race, not your favorite, because obviously it's pretty painful at the time, but number one race to do, what would it be?
Oh, number one race to do. For the gravel scene, Kansas, it's kind of a bucket list race. It's one of those, if you really, really, really want to test yourself, it's a great one to do. Crushing the Tushers is another great one. Burke's built something amazing in Beaver, Utah that's just punishing. You can do a race and finish on a mountaintop and never get that final descent is so frustrating, but so rewarding at the same time.
What's the name of that one?
Crusher in the Tushers.
Crusher in the Tushers. Okay, we'll put that in show notes. That sounds sadistic. Love it.
That's always a great training one as well, and beautiful country. You're up in the Aspens above Timberline, some of it in Utah and Beaver, Utah. So that's a really cool one. And the community comes out. You've got kids giving you bottle handoffs on the Cul de Crush, this incredibly difficult climb. So just the community involvement there is really special.
And that's not, anyone can enter that. It's not a pure pro race, right? There's a lot for it.
Yeah, anybody can enter. Yeah. And hasn't gone lottery at the moment. So that was when you just got to sign up early and get your entry.
So that, if the world opens up to travel again, that would probably be other than Dirty Kanza from a bucket list perspective, that would be the one you suggest people look up and they want to give something a little bit different? Or what give us a couple of races that the people from outside the US should go and have a think about if they want to get over to the US and do some travel and do a race?
Yeah, that one's really fun. I've done, let's see, some of the locally around here, one of the best. If you want some Southern California fun and get in the views and experience, Peloton puts on the Gravel Mob in November above Ojai. It's one of the most spectacular routes. It's about 70, 80 miles of just amazing terrain. You go to the top, you're in Los Padres National Forest. You can see, for 100 miles in every direction.
Wow.
It's a relatively small one, but it's one of those, if you're going to be out here for a week or traveling, it's one to incorporate. And Ojai is this beautiful little town, so it's got a really special little feel to it. That one's kind of near and dear to me as well.
If you were only able to have one bike forever more, road bike, gravel bike, mountain bike, or potentially a time trial bike, depending on what happens in the next few months. You're not a time trial bike.
I love my gravel bike. I have the Revolt, and I can do everything on it. I have 40s on there, and 99% of the trails around here I can do on it. Granted, more slowly than on a mountain bike. You can do the roads a little more slowly, and you can do the fire roads amazingly fast. So it's one of those that you can ride everything on, and I love it. It's a good challenge. Even the most boring trails will feel more fun when you're on a gravel bike, just in the drops, kind of railing.
Yeah. Talk us through your gravel bike setup. What have you got on there? What
Yeah, it's a pretty much fully stock Revolt. Yeah, I run the 40 Maxxis Ramblers. Big fan of those. I've been running them for years. They've never really let me down. Been using the Cush Core inserts for a long time now. I've been working with them since the early days, and it's amazing. You can pretty much not flat. It's between Cush Cores and a Dynaplug. There's really it's a flat free setup, which is amazing. So you rarely get stranded.
Yeah, that's a game changer. That is.
Yeah, super long.
Sorry, go ahead.
Stem and post. Yeah, super long stem and post. I think I've got a 130 stem on there, and incredibly 130 and an extra long post for my freakish geometry. Yeah,
we talked about your freakish geometry a lot throughout this show. How tall are you?
I'm 6'6", but I have
6'6".
6'6".
Okay, no wonder you gave up road racing, man, because road racing must have been a nightmare to get a setup.
I have, my inseam's close to, it's like a 37-inch inseam. So, I mean, just finding pants alone are difficult. And yeah, my torso is not that long. It's all in my legs. So that's why geometry-wise, it's nuts. So yeah, road racing is not my forte.
Look, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and have a chat with us. I know you're like me, you're locked in with young kids as well. So thanks for taking the time. What we'll do, are you still doing the gravel rides, or is that is you sort of fully focused on the CBD thing now?
Not at the moment. The way we've done the last ones has just been kind of we've done them from a marketing perspective. So like a corporate group or a marketing team will come in, or a group of friends will book us. But we found that's been the best way to do them. If we're going to do them, have everyone know each other. It's really hilly around here, and the riding's pretty difficult. So when you're riding with strangers, it can be a little more challenging. But when it's a bunch of friends or people together that know each other, or an event, it just works out better. So we're here as a resource. We do guided tours. So
yeah, that's what I mean. So if there is a group of friends out there that want to go explore the Malibu Hills and gravel riding around it, they can reach out to you. And I suppose if anyone's got any questions just with regards to mountain bike or gravel riding and events in the US, they can drop you a line.
Absolutely.
And the same with regards to the Floyds of Leadville and the CBD as well. I mean, I really think it's going to become far more mainstream. I know it already is in the US. I suspect it will do over the coming months and years in Europe, here in the UK, and further afield as well. So yeah, let us know if you've got any information we can put in around just how someone gets over the hurdle of maybe trying it for the first time, and how safe it is and what it's all about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to share. And then, if anybody needs any route or ride or rental recommendations in Southern California, I'd love to be a resource for that. So don't be shy. I'm happy to help point people to the good spots.
Wicked, man. Well, there you go. If you want to go out to Southern California, I have actually got cousins over there, so I would love to get out there, not too distant future, and maybe do an event or come do some riding with you. That'd be brilliant.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Is there, have we got anything else? Any questions? Anything else that we've missed?
Actually wanted to, there's another side project I've been working on that's pretty amazing. Got involved last year with SCC Tech Chain Lube, as started testing it and have an end on the digital marketing side now from just using the product at different races. It's the only chain lube I've ever used that is Kanza Leadville without reapplying or cleaning the chain at all. It's self-cleaning, adheres to the metal. It's pretty wild stuff. So been lucky to get involved with them, and it's a really unique product.
So how did you find out about it? I mean, how do they make it unique? I mean, I don't know how lubes differ from one to the other. What's the secret?
I know everyone thinks they're all the same, and I got a sample. What was it, 2 or 3 years ago? And it was one of those things like, all chain lubes are the same. Just tossed it aside, and then started using it last year. And it's one of those products that it has a polarity to it. So it's got a magnetic property that sticks to the metal. And it also has a detergent in it that cleans and pushes any particulates out to the surface. So they clean away rather than like getting stuck in the actual lube itself. So it self-cleans and it sticks to the chain, and it lasts.
And you can use that on
any chain, 300 to 400 miles per application. And it's mud, dust. I know it's the only thing I can, like when you're riding in dust around here that doesn't have your chain crunching and mud. Yeah, it's a pretty wild thing. So that's another little fun tidbit. Yeah. Will you please send us the link for that? And there's worldwide distribution with that, I take it, or ship. Yeah, it's big in the US. It's out of Salt Lake. It's still kind of a newer company, but I think ship anywhere worldwide. So
that's nuts, because I read an article not long ago actually just about how detrimental a dirty chain can be to power. I think you're losing like 3 or 4 watts potentially. So if you're doing like a Leadville or a dirty Kanza, and you've got something you don't need to reapply and it's keeping it clean for the whole race. Why did you struggle last year? It should have been easy.
I'd struggled less, but it's one of those chains are one of those weird things too that you don't want to stop and clean it during a race, but you always wish you had when you're crunching and grinding, and you don't want to waste a couple minutes doing it. So drivetrain love.
Well, I'll have to get my hands on some of that and we'll give it a test, but cool. We'll put that in the show notes as well. I think we've wrapped up pretty much everything, haven't we? Good chat.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Look, really appreciate it. If anyone's interested in cycling in Southern California, in CBD, in chain lube or anything else, we'll make sure Ryan's details are in the show notes as well, so you can drop him a line. Thanks so much for taking the time, mate. Really appreciate it. And we will catch up soon, no doubt.
Sounds good. Wine tasting tips too. Any tasting rooms in the Central Coast area, I'm your guy too.
Oh, cool. Excellent. Very good. This is brilliant. I've got my holidays planned for next year already.
Vacation, one stop.
All right. You guys take care, stay safe, and we'll catch up soon, man.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. And more importantly, don't forget to download the Unfound app and join cyclists from around the world on the hub. We'll see you on there.